Justice Sophia Akufo has criticized the use of honorable as the title preceding the names of the country's members of parliament. Presiding over a case filed by MP for Ashama Ernest Nogbe and MP for Judicial Kwabena Minta Kando seeking a revocation of the appointment of Otiko Jaba as Minister for Gender and Social Protection, the Chief Justice expressed reservations about the use of the title, describing the practice as improper. The suit itself was found incompetent by the court after it emerged the MP's lawyer, Godwin Eduji Tamaklo, did not possess a valid license at the time of issuing the writ. There is more in the following report.
Lawyer for the minister, Kwenyeya Nutifafa, raised an initial objection. He had some concerns about the fact that the lawyer for the two MPs, Godwin Eduji Tamaklo, at the time of issuing the writ, did not have a valid license to practice. He argued that renders the suit as incompetent, asking that the court dismisses it. In his response to the court, lawyer Tamaklo told the court that on February 9, when he issued that writ, he had made an application for renewal of his license and had attached the relevant receipts to it. Chief Justice Sophia Akufo, who was presiding over this case, asked him directly whether he possessed a license as was required at the time of issuing the writ. He replied that he did not possess one. In the unanimous decision of the 7-member panel read by Chief Justice Sophia Akufo, she dismissed the writ, describing it as incompetent. Lawyers for the two MPs have already served notice that they may be heading back to the court to issue another action, as they are convinced that the minister cannot hold office when she has failed to undertake the 1-year mandatory national service required of them. The other issue that came up had to do with the use of the honorable title by members of parliament. Chief Justice Sophia Akufo chided the two members of parliament, Honorable Minta Akando and Honorable Ernest Nogbe, for the use of the title. She said that honorable as a title does not win cases in court, adding that the persons whom we copy that tradition of using the title for, they don't use the honorable title as prefixing their name, but they rather add it at the latter part of their name. So you have an individual saying that my name is Mr. So and so, and therefore adding that I'm the honorable member for this particular area, and not a case where you have the honorable preceding their name. So she advised the general public and the MPs for that matter to desist from doing that. So it remains to be seen when exactly this matter will be coming back before the court. From the Supreme Court, I'm Joseph Akable.
The MPs have meanwhile welcomed the caution from the Chief Justice that they desist from calling themselves honorable. Some of them who spoke with Joy News said the criticism is in order.
Why did you have to put the title honorable alongside your names in the writ that was filed? Was it an attempt to probably intimidate the judges or anything like that?
Not necessarily. Actually, I think we contested an election, we won. And then when you come to parliament, the moment you enter parliament, you have become an honorable person. Now, if the judges, or especially the Chief Justice, is saying that we need not to attach that into, it's an advice and we have to take it. And this one will go a long way to affect most of our colleagues who will want to be having a legal tussles with the Supreme Court or any other jurisdiction. That titles are not, they are not what we have to call, they are not necessarily to the Supreme Court rules. So you just mention your name, you just apply by your name, and then you go around. It is not only honorable. Doctors, professors, and so forth. That does not have any legitimate distance on the Supreme Court.
The Chief Justice thinks, using that as part of your name is actually dishonorable. Do you feel hurt by such a description of your act, which, as you rightly indicated, was of good intention?
Well, no, not necessarily, but that is his opinion. We have contested an election. We were voted for by people of our constituencies. The moment you enter parliament, you become an honorable person, and as a lawyer, you're also an honorable person. So definitely, whatever he says, that is his opinion. But we know our constituents call us honorable. And therefore, if we are applying for something, we have to indicate that. But if she is saying that, it doesn't matter whether you call yourself honorable or not, and we should desist from calling ourselves honorable when we come to the law court. I think that is her opinion, and we have to abide by that.
I think that this title of honorable, we are flogging it too much, right? I think that it is just a title that should be used inside of Parliament, right? You bear your name, you have your official name. Honorable is not part of your official name. right? So you just, I mean, for courtesy's sake, just like I will meet a lawyer and I will say that my learned friend, right? But it doesn't become part of your name as my learned friend. It's just for purposes of courtesy in the chamber. So if you are addressed as honorable, does not mean that you should make it part of your name.
I think the Chief Justice was right, but to say it is dishonorable, that is where I have a little problem. Sometimes when you speak the truth and it is too plain, sometimes it's questionable. But if you look at even our standing orders, we are supposed to be addressed honorables in the chamber. In the chamber, every member who is a legislator, well seated, is an honorable member. And we are not even supposed to mention names. So we are supposed to say honorable member from Pandai, honorable member from Asawase. You see, that is how the titles are supposed to be used. And apart from members of parliament, there is no any person who is entitled to the word honorable. No person, no minister, no DCE. That is why the speaker is right honorable speaker. But unfortunately, our politics has become in such a way that anybody who is directly involved in politics or is a frontline politician, everybody calls him honorable, and he take it. Other than that, there is nobody. And the Chief Justice was very right. It's just that to say it is dishonorable, that is where I have a little problem. But she's right.
You think those were too harsh words to describe it?
Exactly. Thank you for giving me the word. It was too harsh. But I think that she's very right. The word honorable is supposed to be used in the House. But it will be very difficult to control. Look at assembly members. If you go and tell an assembly member is not honorable, he will not be very happy with you.
Staying with Parliament, the majority has dismissed concerns by some minority MPs that the impeachment proceedings started against EC boss Charlotte Osei could endanger Ghana's democracy. MP for Ningo Pram Sam George says President Akufo-Addo erred in forwarding the petition alleging corruption against the EC boss to the Chief Justice for further investigation. He says the issue is an internal one among senior officials of the EC and should have been dealt with as such.
I honestly think that the road we're treading on is slippery. It's a very slippery slope, and if we're not careful, we'll be basically gambling with the future of our democratic experience. The Electoral Commission is sacrosanct, and we must be careful whatever actions we take or whatever steps we take. I believe that what we are having is a clash of personalities and actually not a prima facie case of corruption, as we are being made to believe. It's basically a clash of egos and personalities. And I think that the best way to go about it, you have a Council of State, you have a National Peace Council. Call these people, sit them down. You don't need to be friends to work together. You just need to do your job and do it professionally. But to begin to have this dance that we are beginning to have, this dance will end up in a very, very disastrous place for this country. I laid this solely at the step of the president. I worked with Professor Mills, or we all worked with Professor Mills, and there was a case, that was a petition sent to Professor Mills of blessed memory against the Chief Justice at the time, who the current Chief Justice has succeeded, and Madam Georgina Wood. In fact, there was more than a prima facie case in that instance. She had admitted receiving some of the land, in fact, paid for the land. What did Professor Mills do? He could have as well also proceeded to begin hearings into the Chief Justice. But at that time, don't forget, the NDC appeared to have been losing a lot of cases that were being called by panels that had been empaneled by this Chief Justice. An action to take the Chief Justice out at that time would clearly have been misconstrued to have been an attempt to attack the judiciary.
The Vice Chairman of the Constitution and Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament, Alexander Kojo-Aban, says the President had no choice but to comply with the Constitution.
I think that it is within the right of any individual to submit a petition if he thinks that he has some evidence to prove his case, that there has been an abuse of office, or there has been some financial malfeasance, or anything that may lead to maybe the impeachment of one of these constitutional bodies. I think we remember the case of the former Shraj boss, right? So once you submit that petition, it is taken to the President. The President has nothing to do than just to forward it to the Chief Justice. The Chief Justice would then have to now look at the petition, the complaint, right? If she would find what we call prima facie case. Prima facie only means that on the face of it, has the person said anything that may warrant an inquiry, that may warrant that the person against whom those complaints have been made would have to now answer some questions. So if there are those questions, or what we call the prima facie case, then the process is triggered by the Chief Justice setting up a committee to deal with that. So at this point, nobody should think that the EC, Mrs. Charlotte and her people who have been cited in this matter are guilty. No, nobody should think that way. Because if she comes out with that explanation, and it is plausible, the matter can even end there. All right, then they will send a report that, look, having listened to the Electoral Commissioner and the answers she has given and the justifications that she has given, there's nothing more to be dealt with.
Sure.
Okay, but if she is found culpable, right, then it may lead to impeachment and all that.
Authorities at the Ghana Revenue Authority on Tuesday reopened the Accra-based Metro Television after shutting it down earlier in the day for non-payment of taxes. The television station for several hours during the shutdown was off the airwaves and had its premises sealed off. Joining us Latif Idris was at the station and reports the company, which recently changed hands, was reopened following a quick intervention by the new owners.
Earlier today, there were reports in the media about the fact that Metro TV has been shut down by GRA over the company's failure to pay some taxes to the state. In fact, when Johnny's got here, it was the case. The station had been shut down. But about 5-15 minutes ago, which was around 13:40 p.m., we had officials from GRA coming to reopen the company, as it were, after clarifying with the owners of Metro TV over the issue of non-payment of tax. As we can see in the background, the gate has been opened and the seal of the IRS has been taken off, allowing workers of the company to move back in there and start business. Now we are told by sources in there that transmission is expected to start in the next few minutes, because most of the workers after the shutdown just left the premises and made it back home. But those who were around have now made their way back in there to put together the whole transmission, which is expected to start in the next few minutes.
And the station has since resumed broadcast. Meanwhile, Assistant Commissioner Communications and Public Affairs of GRA, Kwesi Bobiansa, tells Joy News, managers of the troubled company have made arrangements to clear the debt. The Communications and Public Affairs unit of GRA would, however, not say how much the company owes. Still ahead in the bulletin, President Akufo-Addo urges men and boys to join the HeForShe campaign to champion women's rights.
I invite men and boys across all communities in our country to become agents of change and to join this platform.
And later on in the bulletin, former President Rawlings goes on a rant over what he describes as the desecration of the tomb of Ghana's first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
Not while he was alive, he had his enemies. His enemies also saw him as an enemy to them.
The East Adequate Development Trust, EDDT, is disputing claims by the Defense Minister that the land ex-President John Mahama is currently occupying belongs to the Ghana Armed Forces. Dominic Nitowol, at a news conference last week, called out the ex-president and advised him to vacate the land. Executive Secretary to the Trust, Ni Yamuhava, told journalists on Tuesday the military cannot lay claim to the said land because it is in the Trust title certificate. Raymond Dakwa's report.
Officials of the trust at a news conference explained as original owners, they entered into a partnership with the estate developer to build the properties there after it won a case against the military over the ownership of the land. Executive Secretary Ni Odwe insisted the land never belonged to the military and that the minister got it wrong.
The land as we speak is land by which the East Adequate Development Trust has been granted land title certificate over it. It is not military land, their land.
I want to be clear in my mind. Is it the same one that's been developed in a way that the ex-President Mohammed's residence is supposed to be on, together with the other developers? Yeah. Is it the same place?
That land is pure and simple in the East Adequate Development Trust title certificate.
And if I get you right, the East Adequate Development Trust is the one that entrusted these lands into the hands of these developers.
In fact, the developers are there as partners. They partner us to develop. So we are still interested in it.
Okay, so the possession of that particular land by the developers is legitimate?
Yes.
And not military land?
No, it's not military land. So why in fact, the military at Bama camp, there is no clear-cut acquisition for the military. The military are existing on an old airport acquisition acquired in 1944. No land has been acquired for the military at that area.
He also called on the Inspector General of Police to call the errant police officers who led a raid at their offices to order.
For the police to unlawfully team up with the vigilantes and land guards of the La Traditional Council to unlawfully evade and seize the offices of the trust. We are therefore calling on the Inspector General of Police, the IGP, to act speedily as a matter of urgency to conduct thorough investigations into the misconduct of its personnel and bring the perpetrators to book if found culpable. The public is hereby cautioned to be wary of fraudsters and avoid purchase of any land or property under the jurisdiction of the East Adequate Development Trust from any of these vigilantes purporting to be a trustee or any entity that has been instituted parallel to the EDDT.
The trust has meanwhile filed a suit at the court to stop the military from laying further claims to the said land. Raymond Aquez reports for Joy News.
Residents of New Takoradi, a suburb of the Western Regional Capital, got what could probably be their best Christmas present as a community: the reconstruction of the main access road to and from the area. The residents have on several occasions staged protests over the nature of the road and for the second time this year blocked it off with burning tires. Natalia Kwanson, who was at the groundbreaking ceremony, reports the project will commence on December 19 this year and is expected to be completed within 12 months at the cost of $6.3 million.
The residents' demonstration over the poor nature of the road have been quite disruptive, often preventing access to industries such as the Ghana Cement Company Limited, Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, and Ghana Bauxite Company. Their main complaint has been the dust that vehicles which ply the route blow into their homes, which they say is accounting for the high number of respiratory-related health issues. The chief of New Takoradi, Nana Kwesi Abeka, whilst expressing his gratitude for the gesture, talked about how his subjects have suffered as a result of the deplorable road.
Demonstration on some kakraba. O the baby pana a police for to the Asha Yama for what can carry water. Now, Sunday, Raza Yadoma, Gapoha, I feel when you pepper, when you are conway, that's all by your cornea. That's the Radasi.
The cost of the project is being taken up by Ibistec Company Limited, which says it is part of its corporate social responsibility as contractors for the $350 million container terminal at the Takoradi port.
One is starting from Power Grant Runabout through New Takoradi Runabout to Takoradi Port Gate 10. That section is designed with a different pavement structure. We are going to have concrete as our base and pavement blocks as our wearing cost. And the necessary road furnitures, walkways, street lights are all considered in the design.
Metropolitan Chief Executive of Sekondi Takoradi, Anthony K.K. Sam, says the road is of prime importance not only to the residents of New Takoradi.
The road going to pass by the railway line to Takoteria will be serving WAMCO, all the oil companies lying there, Cyrus and the rest. So now the people of Sekondi Takoradi, when the road is constructed, will not bother themselves passing through Takoteria Junction to background before they veer off to Harbour. Straight from their yard, they will enter the road. Straight away, they get to Harbour. This will enhance business.
Director of the Takoradi Port, Captain Eben Afizi, told Joy News the road upon completion will bring relief to management of the port who have been threatened by residents of New Takoradi on several occasions.
Citizens of New Takoradi have been pestering our lives. There was a time they even threatened coming to take over our offices because of this road. So now that we've been able to get a contractor to start the road, it's a good news and a good relief for us.
In Natalia Kwanse's report for Joy News.
So much for joining me on business. Affected staff of Goldfields valuation process are to receive attractive severance packages as the company embarks on a strategic direction. Executive Vice President and Head of West Africa for Goldfields, Alfred Baku, assured affected workers of the company as a result of its business evaluation process will be heavily compensated. He noted about 15% of the workforce at the Takwa mines may be affected due to the decision by the company to move its business operation from ownership mining to contractor mining. Speaking with journalists in Accra, Alfred Baku debunked claims that about 1,000 of its staff will be laid off. Ebenezer Sabute's report is read to you.
The company has begun an evaluation process to move its operations from owner mining to contractor mining, a situation the Ghana Mine Workers Union described as unfair. At a press conference, the Executive Vice President and Head of West Africa, Alfred Baku, said the company is prepared to compensate all persons to be affected in the company's new business model. He debunked claims that about 1,000 of its staff will be laid off. He has been explaining to Joy Business the need for such a decision.
We haven't actually finalized the evaluation yet, but there are merits in doing that. Why? Because, one, we can see that considering the huge capital outlay that you need with your mining fleet, that is actually coming at us. Considering all the headwinds, as I mentioned, the labor cost, the reagent cost, all coming at us, you need to seriously look into it. And that is why we are evaluating whether to go back to contractor mining. You see, I'm using the word back to because we were in that space before.
Alfred Baku also disclosed that management has begun investments into some social activities in its operational areas, amounting to $20 million and requires more funds.
We would like to improve this business, and we would like to increase the margin that we give our stakeholders. And if you want to increase the margin to our stakeholders here we mean the workforce, the community, the government, the shareholders, and across board. And if you look at the community, for instance, as we speak, we are tarring the road between Takwa and Daman. And that is going to cost us in excess of $20 million US. And that's a lot of money.
So we would like to run this business and have such monies available that we can use to actually support the host communities within which we operate.
The evaluation process, which is currently ongoing, will be ended in about 2 weeks' time.
80 industrial companies have now been identified to receive government's stimulus package for viable but distressed businesses. The selection is after an assessment of over 129 applications received from the business community since the beginning of the year. This was disclosed by Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, Ahomka Lindsay, during a meeting with some German businesses in Accra. Ghana has been identified as a favorable business and investment hub in the sub-region by the German government.
So industrial transformation is the route that we have taken towards changing fundamentally our economy. And in doing that, to be honest, if there is a modern economy that if we had aspired for us to engage to, and I'm fortunate enough to have a bit of history both in Germany and in Britain, we prefer an economy that looks a bit more like Germany than an economy that looks more like a British. Not because there is anything wrong with the services sector, but we believe that the backbone of any strong economy is an industrial base. And I think the Germans have shown that to be very clear. I don't think this is debatable. And most countries today are looking to do that. Some have lost it and trying to rediscover it. So we want to make sure we get that. So every ministry, department, agency of government, whatever program we are following, links back to the job creation through the industrial transformation. Some of it may not, the tenants may not come out very clearly, but is directly linked to that. So free education is to make sure we have the very critical, most important asset to any industry, which is people, part of that process. And I will talk a little bit about that. So within the Ministry of Trade and Industry, we have a 10-point agenda. I know there's one that has come to people's minds, but I will take a little bit of time just to explain the main tenets of that. Just one second, Ophia. I'm just going to, I've not quite gone through that, so that we're fine. On the introduction, it's fine. We have a 10-point agenda in what we're doing, and I'm going to try and pick those that I think are very relevant to German businesses. But I was very interested to hear, Professor Grosser, you mentioned that, I think you said in 80% of the countries you operate, you have a manufacturing. And we would like that 80% to include Ghana at the core of it. Because our interest, very simply, is we want manufacturing. Manufacturing, as a percentage of our GDP, is less than 5%.
Now, UN Resident Coordinator Ghana, Christine Evans Clark, has called on government to involve private businesses in their quest to achieving the sustained or sustainable development goals agenda. This, according to her, is key in the commitment to attaining the goals as partners in development to enhance living conditions of people in the country. She was speaking with Joy Business at a high-level Africa Roundtable discussion on SDGs themed Mobilizing and Accelerating the Implementation of SDGs, organized by the SDG Advisory Unit of the Office of the President.
Sustainable development goals are all-inclusive universal agenda to improve the lives of people globally. In all, there are 17 goals built on the successes of the previous Millennium Development Goals and adding on new areas such as climate change, economic inequality, innovation, sustainable consumption, among other priorities. For Ghana, the quest and commitment to attaining sustainable development is to encourage businesses to enhance the living condition of the community in which they operate. At the opening of a high-level African roundtable organized by government under the theme Mobilizing Support and Accelerating Implementation of SDGs, President Nana Akufo-Addo admonished African leaders to strategically engage the private sector in their respective countries for the execution of the SDGs.
There's no doubt in my mind that a key accelerator to achieving the goals is a strong and vibrant private sector, which has the space to grow and flourish. We must and should do everything in our power to dismantle the labyrinth of constraints that impede the private sector and regional trade and integration.
Christine Evans Clark is the UN Resident Coordinator, Ghana.
Well, the SDGs are the responsibility of governments to achieve them, and Ghana is very clear that its approach is to achieve the SDGs in its self-reliant approach, earning its own way, paying for this out of its own budget, and prioritizing it in its development partnerships with the UN and with many other development partners. So I think this is the real challenge that we're talking about at this roundtable. The commitment is there. There's a lot of technical knowledge, but there is a resource gap. And so, as you said, we need to mobilize private sector to prioritize in national budgets and to really focus all of the development partnerships on where Ghana is able to achieve SDGs.
The president of CSR Training Institute, Canada, Professor Wayne Dunn, is unhappy the SDG agenda as it stands now is too rigid for businesses to adopt.
I think it's already helping to achieve it. Business is investing in CSR initiatives, not because they're out to change the world, not because they're forgetting about shareholder interests. Business is investing in CSR initiatives because it is in the interests of shareholders. A more prosperous society is in the interest of business shareholders. A better educated society is in the interests of business shareholders. These can break down on specific businesses, on specific projects, but there is an alignment. And I think what's important is that we help to facilitate better understanding of that alignment. Because right now, there's too much being done to present the SDGs as something complicated, something that would be a burden to engage in, rather than something that's natural to engage.
And that's it for Business Tonight. Many thanks for watching. My name is Emmanuel Apuachi. Have a good evening. Our President Akufo-Addo has made a firm commitment to end child marriage, a practice condemned worldwide. According to him, ending the practice and increasing women participation in politics and decision-making under the Affirmative Action Bill currently before Parliament remains a priority. Launching a global program for women empowerment dubbed HeForShe, which aims to address inequalities, President Akufo-Addo called for support from Parliament and other stakeholders to pass the bill next year.
As the AU gender champion and the co-chair of the UN SDG advocates, I pledge to work with all actors to ensure that gender equality becomes reality in Ghana and across the continent. Today, I commit to giving full support to the three focus areas under the HeForShe platform for action in Ghana. 1, to end child marriage and negative cultural and traditional practices. 2, to increase women's participation and representation in political decision-making spheres by passing the Affirmative Action Bill in the year 2018. And 3, to increase women's economic empowerment through capacity building and a healthy business environment. I invite decision makers from all sectors of national life to support policies which empower our women and girls. I invite men and boys across all communities in our country to become agents of change and to join this platform. I invite lawmakers to continue their work in advancing progress for women's and girls' rights across the nation. I invite traditional leaders as gatekeepers of our moral and cultural values to work in helping to tear down the cultural barriers which prevent our women and girls from being equal citizens.
Now, Germany is promising to give Ghana 100 million euros only if it will undertake some reforms in a number of sectors, particularly energy. The promise was first made at the G20 summit in July this year as part of a compact for 6 African countries to improve electricity supply and stimulate economic growth, and the 2 countries on Tuesday signed a memorandum of intent on how Ghana could access the funds. Deputy Minister for German Economic Cooperation and Development, Friedrich Kistech, is hopeful the funds, when finally accessed, will support renewable energy development and vocational training.
I think we've gone a long way from the Africa G20 conference, which we conducted in Germany. And I'd like to congratulate you, Honorable President, and your government for the leading role Ghana has taken. And with the conclusion of the MOU today, we are adding a bilateral supplement towards a mutual program in the area of energy efficiency and renewable energies to the G20 Compact with Africa program, based on reform initiatives in Ghana, which we know are very dear to you, Mr. President, and your government. So while we, from the German side, offer our support in advisory services, our experiences in Germany in an adapted way, and financing to bring about further development in the area of renewable energies, financial sector, and also vocational training. We're in good discussions, and we will conclude overall sectoral reforms which bring the sector forward and open further broad space for private sector development in Ghana, to the benefit of young people and the benefit of creating more jobs and more employment opportunity in the country.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, who signed on behalf of Ghana, assured the money will be put to good use.
We are signing a joint declaration of intent after the MOU that we signed in Berlin. And this is $100 million that is being given to Ghana after we're invited to join the compact countries, making 7 of us in Africa. It's a clear sign of Germany's identification of Ghana as an important pillar of stability in the region and an economic zone that has to be supported. The work our president has done with bringing macroeconomic stability and fiscal consolidation is the way to go to ensure that we can cascade in foreign private investment to support our investment drive. We are looking forward to picking out some specific areas in energy, healthcare, job creation skills from there on, and expect that this will be a very special relationship going forward.
In a related development, President Akufo-Addo says Ghana will be tapping into Germany's rich experience in human resource development for industrial use, as well as development of small to medium industries, as the country seeks to address unemployment. He was addressing a joint news conference with the visiting German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier.
An area where Germany has, as it were, taken the lead in the world is in the training of its workforce. The so-called dual system, which allows people to work and study and go between the factory floor and the study room, has made it that the German workforce is one of the most efficient, not just in Europe, but in the world. And it shows by the continuing performance and resilience of the German economy. This is another area of great concern for us. The whole area of skills development and skills training for our workforce and for our young people.
That was President Akufo-Addo. Now, the Koforidua Circuit Court A has fined an illegal miner 14,000 cedis for embarking on illegal mining in the Tua forest at Sejimase in the eastern region. The suspect, Isaac Kwe, together with Emmanuel Yeboah, were arrested by guards of the Forestry Service Department on December 3 in the mining in the forest reserve. The third suspect, Frederick Opong, has been hospitalized after he sustained severe injuries during a chase. Assistant State Attorney Stephen Odonko charged them on 2 counts of mining without permit and conspiracy to mine. Isaac Kwe pleaded guilty to all counts and was convicted on his own plea. However, the second suspect, Emmanuel, changed his plea from guilty to not guilty when the judge, Mercy Adai Kote, gave a hint of his possible sentence. Isaac Kwe was sentenced to 1,200 penalty units, or in default, serve a prison sentence of 3 years whilst Emmanuel Yeboah was remanded into prison custody to reappear on December 22. In other news, storms in the Oti River along Dambai and the Karachi East district of the Oti region have been identified as a major cause of boat accidents on the river, especially during the storm season. Such accidents have claimed several lives, along with the properties of boat passengers. Government, as part of efforts to arrest the situation, has awarded a 3.5 million cedi contract to dredge and remove the stumps. Fred Kwame Asari's report.
Lots of goods and commodities are transported on the Oti River, which separates the Karachi East District from the Karachi Inchimuru and Karachi West District. The Dambai ferry and boats are of service to residents who commute their farm produce from islands and overbank communities to the Karachi East District capital Dambai on market days. Unfortunately, some of these residents, in their quest to make a living, end up perishing in boat accidents on the river. The 3.5 million cedi contracts awarded by the Transport Ministry to Dedosu Holding Incorporated to remove the stumps is hoped would create a stump-free waterway for the Dambai ferry and other boats on the river. The Transport Minister, Kwekuofori Asiamwa, assured that the contract would be delivered on schedule since funds are readily available.
Concession has already been given to a contractor. So why again? Many a time when such concessions are given to a concessionaire, they harvest the economic trees and leave the one they consider non-viable or non-economical. And these are some of the trees which have been causing accidents on the road. So government has committed a lot of funds through Ghana Maritime Authority to make sure that these trees are removed from the lake to make sure that it becomes relatively safer.
Esukoko Manhene Nana Odame Jemfi II, who spoke on behalf of traditional authorities in the area, was grateful for the gesture. The project is expected to be completed after 4 months. The traditional authorities also complained that the Dambai ferry now runs on one engine because the second engine has developed a fault, and appealed for maintenance works to be carried out on the broken engine or replaced with a new one. Fred Kwame Asare, Joy News.
Learning how to use computers in rural schools can be challenging, especially when pupils don't have a practical feel of computers. Sometimes pupils have no choice but to rely on the creativity of ICT teachers. Jojo Kobna visited a typical rural school in Pandai in the northern region and reports reliance on the creativity of a teacher could sometimes be disastrous.
I take a seat at Jiradogo Presby School in the Pandai district of the northern region. My aim is to find out how students in JHS2 were coping with information communication technology lessons without computers. Today's lesson is how to create a folder.
To create a folder, before you can able to create a folder,
pardon the spelling error and concentrate on what the teacher has to say about how to create a folder.
Create a folder. Before you can able to create a folder, when you on your boot on your computer, we have some place you click. You click and you will see the place folder, and when you click, the folder will, the empty folder will appear. and then you open it and put all your documents inside.
I am confused about what the teacher is saying, so I intervened.
Do you know what a folder is? Please no. Who knows what a folder is? Folder is a symbol where you keep or kept your what? Documents inside for the future use. What did your teacher say?
He said that a folder is where you keep your document for future use.
Folder is a kind of storage device which where the documents are kept.
A folder is a form of distance. It's a form of picture when you keep your distance, your things inside. Example like information or documents there.
Kind of a computer when file or data input.
What is happening here is sad, perhaps tragic. This teacher has been employed under the National Youth Employment Program. He is expected to impart knowledge to the children. Unfortunately, the children don't understand the lessons, but the teacher insists they are doing very well.
Yes, they understand.
Did they tell you they understand? Does it show that they understand?
Yeah, the reason why I'm sure that they understand is that when I contest them class tests or class exercise, they'll perform.
Now the topic changes to what is a scanner?
A scanner is a program inside the what? Computer. It's a program and we store inside the what? Computer. And we use to scan pictures or what? Our own. Scan is to you to when you have the information, your documents, and you want the information to be inside the what? Computer, and or send it to different areas or offices. You scan it inside your computer before you transfer it.
It is getting very ridiculous here. The circuit supervisor from Pandai Education Office is compelled to rescue the teacher.
Scan means converting the hard picture in its electronic form. You have scanned it, and it can be sent to anywhere. Either put in your folder, save in your computer, or even sent to somebody.
The teacher admits that it is indeed difficult to teach without a computer.
The reason why they don't know the scanner, actually, the scanner, they're supposed to see it physical, but because of we don't have it here.
The Ministry of Education ICT in Education policy document signed by the then Minister Alex Teteño stated that the policy's main goal is to enable graduates from Ghanaian institutions, formal and informal, to confidently and creatively use ICT tools and resources to develop requisite skills and knowledge needed to be active participants in the global knowledge economy by 2015. But students of Jaradogo Presby JHS are yet to touch a computer. It is important for government to ensure equitable distribution of ICT education resources if truly it wants citizens to be computer literate, as well stated in the ICT education policy. Jojo Kobna, Joy News.
Folder is a symbol where you keep or kept your what? Documents inside for the future use.
This is Joy News Prime.
And in the headlines tonight, Supreme Court strikes out suit by 2 MPs seeking a revocation of the appointment of Oti River as Minister for Gender and Social Protection over claims she did not perform a national service as required by law. The Chief Justice before the ruling bill criticized the use of the title honorable by MPs, describing it as improper, a criticism the MPs appear to have taken in good faith. The Defense Minister's claim that ex-President John Mahama is occupying lands belonging to the military is being challenged by the East Dadekotopong Development Trust. Accra-based Metro TV has been reopened after it was shut down by the Ghana Revenue Authority for unpaid taxes. In business, Goldfields Ghana debunks claims it is laying off about 1,000 of its staff and promises to pay enhanced severance packages to workers affected in this strategic evaluation process. Also in the bulletin, President Akufo-Addo has urged men and boys to join the HeForShe campaign to champion women's rights.